I'm not ready to do this live. I'm doing a little tapping here because I feel some pain. I feel not ready to kind of be exposed. I sense that one of my parents just got home and is probably going to walk in here and check on me any minute, which is not a bad thing. It's just, why am I trusting this timing? Why am I on here speaking to you at this exact moment when things don't seem right but feel right? And what's the difference, and how do you distinguish that? It's been 10 years since I first had a sign of cancer. May of 2015 is when I had my first scan that noticed something was off, and then my official diagnosis was the 28th of August 2015. So we're almost at 10 years since the diagnosis. And I have had such a fucking gorgeous, powerful, wild ride. And half of you know me because I was seeking. And part of you know me because I was finding and being found. I asked the Spirit for a specific sign a couple of years ago, that it was lessening. I asked for a single yellow leaf. And I remember the first time, it was the middle of summer, and Spirit had me look out my window at a very specific time, and I got hundreds of yellow leaves coming down into the yard in the middle of summer in Georgia. I couldn't believe it. While I was in hospice in Georgia, there were skylights above my bed. And there was a single yellow leaf that got caught on the skylight that stayed there for weeks. And I remember this feeling of devastation when that leaf blew off, got rained off. Is God not with me anymore? Is Spirit not hearing me anymore? And God asked me to be with that feeling, to be with the feeling of being abandoned and what that felt like, and to reconstruct the truth in my brain about God being with me all the time. And even if there's not a direct sign that it's there, to know it's there. And within days, there would be another single leaf that would catch itself on that same skylight. Since then, I had the thought, I'm inside. I'm inside most of the time. Not only is it not fall, but I'm inside most of the time. Do you know how often I see a single yellow leaf? Someone sends me a single yellow leaf in a picture. Someone I know and love that has no idea that that's a sign from God. I'm scrolling on Facebook. Somebody takes a picture of a single yellow leaf. Today, I remember getting a message from a girlfriend of mine. She hasn't talked to me in 2 years, not life, but we have chatted back and forth maybe every 6 months or so. My close friends know that I don't speak on the phone very often. My best friend, I spoke on the phone yesterday too, and that was the third call we've had this entire year. So, it's a rare, and it's only when it feels aligned. It's not because of the closeness of my relationship. It's not because of whether it's right or wrong. Does it feel aligned? Are our energies aligned? Is this where God is directing me? And I had this message from this girlfriend that I rarely talk to. She said, Rachel, I have to talk to you. Can you please call me? Please call me. And for some reason, the ego in my brain wanted to type her back. I'm sorry, I don't talk on the phone, right? I'm sorry. I'm not the kind of person that talks on the phone, and I'm just in my own little world, and thank you for reaching out, but, I can't do this. And Spirit stopped my fingers and then put them right back on the keyboard and said, yes, I'll call you. I got the message all day long today, call her. So I know, but I don't feel right. And there was an exact moment that it felt right. And I said, oh, shit, but I feel like shit. It feels right, but I'm in pain. I feel emotionally distraught. Call her. I'll call her. And she said, how are you? And I started to cry. And I said, it feels like a hard day. And there's variations of that, of course. It's all relative to my own experience. There's a hard day where I'm in extreme pain and I just want God to take me. Or there's a hard emotional day. But the day just feels like I don't know where my bearings are, kind of a hard day. And she said, Rachel, I'm so sorry, I just got to tell you this. And she tells me about this healer woman. She just been yesterday and all this psychic surgery she does. And I felt myself start to resist. Oh, great. Here's yet another person who thinks they know what's best for me. Another person that thinks that they know that I haven't done enough, or that I should have done something different, has a judgment, is criticizing me. That's what it feels like. And I set myself up for a very curated response that would have been something like, thank you so much for loving me and for suggesting, this woman, appreciate you, but we're at no budget right now. And we've got all our liquid assets tied up, and basically I'm leading this, and thank you so much, but no thank you. I couldn't open my mouth. Some of you know, some of you don't know, I'm a channel by trade. So if I can't open my mouth, that's the biggest thing Spirit can do for me, because I tune in and I'm listening most of the time. And I had to listen to her. Right? Spirit said, listen to what she's saying. Every single thing that I was trying to say to her for the reasons why I couldn't work with this woman, she addressed without me having to talk about it. And every single thing she said turned out that it was in alignment for me. And as she's speaking, I'm feeling my ego dissolve in this area of I can't be helped. I'm helpless. People have tried before. Don't waste your energy on me. You know, all of these thoughts that we have. And as I'm talking to her, I'm remembering that one of the reasons I got on the phone with her is that as I'm contemplating shifting my energy enough to be able to call her, a single yellow leaf appears in my Instagram feed. And right after that, I said, okay, Spirit, this has been my sign for a long time. Then I changed it to unicorns. Within a week, my sister bought me a unicorn. Not kidding. Brought it over to me, and this thing's happened. But I said, let's do another sign. I said, I want to see 3 pennies together. Within 10, 15, 20 minutes max, Spirit had me follow all these different links, and all of a sudden there's this huge penny in my feed. It's not 3 pennies, but I said, okay, I'm listening. That's when I called her. So here we are on the phone. And she's answered and reacted, responded to all of my resistance before I could even tell her what my resistance is. And finally, 6 minutes into the phone call, I just started to cry. I said I wanted to respond before. She kept waiting for me to respond, and I was silent. I said, but I couldn't because Spirit had me listening. I said, but thank you so much. I'm going to call this woman. And she said, I believe in a miracle for you. And I said, I do too. But if people knew how many messages I receive, sending me links to Felicia's protocols, most, by the way, of which I have already tried. 10 years into my journey. But guess what? God knows me. God knows my heart and my mind. God knows exactly what and how I need to be spoken to, talked to, communicated with, to where I will hear. And God would not give up and blame me for not hearing because I couldn't hear in a way that other people could. And that's the same for you. Before I spoke in this conversation, 6 minutes in, my mom knocked on the door. And I looked down at my phone to mute my phone so I could tell her, Mom, I'm on the phone. And the phone was at 4 minutes and 44 seconds for the conversations. And 44 is my angel number. 11:44 is my angel time. But 44 is my angel number. Again, I said, okay, God, I'm listening. I'm listening. So I already reached out to this woman. She's already gotten back to me. And this is how things flow when they are meant to be. You will never feel like it is like this energy. If it's right. And that might mean, no, it's not right. But most of the time, especially if it's something you want, it means it's going to be so much better than you think. But we need you to wait. Maybe 1 second, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3 months. But wait, listen, follow. Wait, listen, follow, act. You notice I haven't been on the social media in a life because of 2 reasons. Number 1, there has been the lesion affecting my arms on the spine. So there's times where I hold up my phone and I have a spasm, which is why I couldn't stand the phone with her very long. And I asked Mom to come in and put my phone on the holder. That's one reason I haven't been live, because I need help sometimes to go live. But the biggest reason I haven't gone live, which is something a dear friend of mine who's also a psychic called me out on, is because I tend to process out loud. And the way that I speak is non-linear. You can listen back to this recording and you'll see that the way that I speak is non-linear and not always easy to follow. When I channel the angels, they are also non-linear. But when I try to be linear, I have this tendency to lose my place and to release the energy that's driving me. So nonlinear is, and this feeling of being disorganized and fear of being seen by you in a disorganized way, in a non-curated way. And I was upset because I thought she was telling me that I wasn't being live with you guys because I thought I had to be not myself in a way that I was being inauthentic online. She said, no. She said, whenever you speak, you are being authentic. That's not what I'm saying. She said, but Rachel, your perfectionism is keeping you from touching and moving and inspiring people. And I said, but who wants to listen to my long ramblings where it takes me a long time to say anything at all? She said, the people that need to hear will hear. So I am here, disorganized, not curated, processing out loud, not exactly sure what I'm going to say, and hoping that one person gets touched by this message in some way. Some of you are asking me for a health update. What feels good to say is I feel more grateful than I do feel sad. I feel grateful that I can still stand up when I have to have a bowel movement, to transfer to the bedside Buddha or commode. I feel grateful that I can still move my arms at all. I've heard of a woman that was so late-stage cancer, she had neuropathy from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet and couldn't move at all. I feel grateful that I'm lucid, that even though I take pain pills to some extent every day, that I am able to be lucid, to connect with myself and God, mostly to connect with my family, to connect with the few people that I do connect with, to experience life. And the latest for me is targeting the moments in between. The moments that feel like nothing. A waste of time, waste of energy, something wasted. And saying God is here too. God is in not just what is, God is what's in between what is. God is not just the light, God is the blackness and the void of light. God is for all things. And I challenge my indoctrinated brain. And I say, this moment where I got nothing done, I spoke to nobody, I didn't do any internal therapy work, I wasn't creating something, I wasn't connecting with a friend, I wasn't doing anything good for my health. This moment matters too. And this moment, God is inviting me to be with it too. This moment where I feel like I have nothing to show. Nothing to show. God is calling to me to turn in that exact moment with my heart open and my entire being, past, present, and future, all lives included, all identities included, and expose all of me to be loved, radically accepted, and held. I'm not just convinced. I know. I know who God is. I know who God isn't. And who God isn't something that is in form or not in form. It's just a channel. And it's a knowing that my brain created what isn't. But only God can create what is. I've been guided to complete two things sooner than later that are something that have to do with you guys. Of course, other things that are private. Number one is finish the song New Human between myself and the artist, John Stringer. And Jesse's, I forgot his last name, our producer. And that's going to require me to fundraise to finish the production costs. I said, why are we not completing this? And the answer was, there's been a death in the family. And I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone, thank you.
Call me when you want your dinner.
Thank you. And there is a need for financial respite to process the death of the loved one. And I said, 100%, let's make that happen. So we can create a song that will change people's lives and help this musician in my community. Number two, after a long period of meditation and prayer, I have been guided to bring my things back from Georgia to Washington. That was a big decision. feeling like a big decision to me. You can imagine. Because I love Georgia. I love my community. I love my friends. I love the weather. Not right now, but usually. And to bring my SUV home, and then to ask God what to do from there. And most of us, regarding timing, we want to know, God, what's going to be the next step? What is after this piece of guidance? And when is that next piece of guidance going to come? And when do I have to complete that next piece of guidance? And by when? Sucking ourselves back into the matrix of temporal time, the temporal nature of time. And yet, I was shown just last night that time is not just a construct in theory. Time is a construct of the components of the exact amount of DNA we have, or the exact amount of frequency components that can be targeted and dislodge our concept of time. That there is like a Rubik's Cube, imagine. And each one of those colors and sides represents a component to the construct of time. And I have started to target certain constructs and playing with timeline jumping. I don't recommend experimenting and playing with timeline jumping in general because it's real. And I'm going to tell you something I've never said in public before. Oh, am I going to tell you? Well, let's see how far I go. I had one experience of a real timeline jump. Now, I've been timeline jumping these past maybe 5 or 6 months extensively, and I can feel when I jump timelines. I sense it, and I know I'm on a new timeline. But that means that I'm jumping timelines from this point on the grid, right? So my environment's not going to be different right away. It's going to feel different, but it's not going to be different right away because I'm jumping from this exact conscious point on the grid. Where I've timeline jumped before, which is how I know you've got to be careful, was when I wasn't conscious. I was just falling asleep with my boyfriend in the theta brain state, which was just between full-on, sleep and meditation. I fell out into this nap. I knew right where I was. I was conscious. And, my brothers and sisters who dimension travel and leave their bodies, I'm not going to over-explain this, so don't worry. In a different video, maybe sometime I'll explain the difference between dimension jumping, lucid dreaming, and timeline jumping. But for now, follow me the best you can. I woke up the same age, but on a completely different timeline that had split, I would imagine, 20 years earlier. And in this timeline, I can't say exactly because there's close loved ones that are involved, so it doesn't feel right to say exactly, but I woke up in somebody's house that was a loved one. And it was some house. It was a condo on the beach in Oregon. I knew exactly where I was, but I didn't know where I was. Somehow I knew I belonged there, but I also was conscious that I was sleeping right next to my boyfriend in Atlanta, Georgia. Hint, that's one of the reasons you know you're either dimension traveling, lucid dreaming, or leaving your body, is when you're very conscious of where you are physically in the universe you just kind of left behind. I'm waking up in this condo. I'm sleeping on a couch, and somebody that I was in a fight with, a loved one, close loved one, that I was currently in a fight with and had been fighting with my mind for probably a couple of days, came up to me smiling, woke me up from a nap on this couch in this condo in Oregon, and was like, hey, da-da-da-da-da, we're almost ready for dinner. And I was just like blindsided. Number one, where am I? Number two, why is this person that I'm currently not estranged from, but in a fight with, I guess, so happy to see me? And the first thing I said, because I recognized, oh shit, I'm on a different timeline. I knew right away. But I didn't know which year it was, so I asked this loved one, I said, where are we? I knew we were at this loved one's place, but I didn't know where geographically we were. He said, we're in Bend, in Oregon. And I said, what year is it? And this person was like, what do you mean, what year is it? I said, what year is it? And they told me it was the exact same year. And I freaked out. I jumped up. I looked down, and I saw someone who was related to me, but who had never been born. And I knew they were related to me. I knew it. And I knew what relation they were to me, but they had never been born in this timeline. And I knew who was standing beyond the door. And they are not a part of our lives. This person never entered our lives. But something very specific would have had to happen, and I can't share because I can't share. But something very specific would have had to happen 20 years prior for this whole timeline to go in this direction. But I immediately, I was there maximum 2 minutes. Maximum. Because again, it wasn't like a dimension traveling or lucid dreaming where you're kind of having fun, exploring different dimensions, talking to different beings. You would call aliens, I would call just different beings. It wasn't like that. It was scary. Because I've heard that you can get stuck in a different timeline and not find your way back. I've heard of that happening for real. And here's the kicker. The other thing I knew, without looking at my body, I knew I didn't have cancer. I knew I didn't have cancer. And whoever took me to this timeline showed me that if this different loved ones had made a different decision, even though that's not what I wanted to happen, that I wouldn't have had cancer as a result. Regardless, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and at that time I knew I was right next to my boyfriend. I didn't know I'm going to lose my boyfriend. And even though I had cancer, I wanted to come back. And the only thing I could think of to do was throw myself on the ground. I threw myself on the ground. I remember it was carpet. I buried my face in the carpet, and I put myself into a transient state. And for those of you who know me very well, I'm a channel. so I can go very easily into trance. And I just thought to myself, I've got to get back to sleep and in theta state as soon as possible. That's the only way that I could wake up back in the original timeline. And so that's what I did, and I just pulled myself to sleep, and then right then, felt my head come back into my body, shook myself, looked over at my boyfriend, breathing very heavily. Of course, I woke him up and I told him all about it. And I've told very few people about it because, again, it's very sensitive because it has to do with my loved ones. But you can timeline jump in a way that is safe, consciously. When you do it from conscious point of in the time grid, again, it's not going to be so scary, right? It's just affecting where you're going next, not necessarily where you are now. That's the difference. How do you shift the timeline? You are defiant. You've got to be willing to be defiant. Anytime you're working with energy and conflicting with your indoctrination, you've got to be willing to be defiant against impossibility. You've got to be willing to shift your brain into places that feel like there will be nothing like you. Because the main thing holding you where you feel the most uncomfortable is that you are identifying with it. There's a part of the subconscious mind that I like to call the identity fabric, which is where you keep all of these identities, like I'm somebody that likes to eat junk food. I'm somebody, like for me, what I fought through today, for you who want to go back and listen to the beginning, I'm somebody who doesn't get on the phone. I'm not a phone person. I don't like to talk on the phone. I really had to dissolve that today in order to call my friend and accept this potential miracle. Right? So there's a part of you that needs to realize that there's a frequency of walls and ceilings around you that you don't realize you allow to exist there. Not just allow, but invite to exist every day. This is the box inside of which I feel most comfortable existing. Now, for someone like me, and if your voice is saying, but I have OCD, I'm an addict, I've got, multiple personality disorder, I'm schizophrenic, I've named any mental health challenge, try me. I've got at least 3 of them myself. So I understand what it feels like to feel so terrified of something different and have so much PTSD that even being moved in a slightly different way by someone different is terrifying to me. So imagine every day facing those demons, right? What inside of you, if you could close your eyes, if it feels safe for you, and you can feel what feels like it's in my way. That frequency doesn't need to be murdered, kicked out, annihilated like Minecraft. But it will dissolve itself if you show it that you're not afraid of it, by giving it your witness, by gifting it your witness, your attention, but not in a way that says, I'm going to focus on you over and over again because I need you out of here. In a way that says, I'm going to focus on you, love you for what you have created benefit in my life so far, whatever that is. And I'm going to ask you to integrate into my being and to reset yourself as non-threatening in my brain. You can stay as long as you reset yourself as a non-threatening frequency. And so you're integrating now, and as you're integrating, those walls and those ceilings are expanding and creating more room for you to exist. Because what human minds are trying to do with things like PTSD, they try to say that the smaller you can make your box, the safer you'll be. But God says, I didn't create you to be safe. We didn't co-create this planet for the feeling of safety. We co-created for the feeling of liberation and freedom. And inside of liberation, there's a treasure, and it's called peace. Now, most people are asking for safety, but peace is what feels like liberation. Because peace doesn't say, I'm just safe for now. When you feel safety, you're aware that on the other side of safety, on the opposite side of that coin, is perpetration, is danger, is something that's not safe. So in order to feel safe, we must be aware of what's not safe. And there's moments where we can play with that and just be playful with that. You know, oh, it's a spider, hide behind your boyfriend. We could be playful with that, right? But on the daily basis, when you and you alone are responsible for who you're being and what you're paying attention to, what you're focusing on, please ask for peace. Because peace doesn't have two sides. Peace is the only frequency that doesn't have another side. Because it's at 0 point, right? We have a static bliss over here. We have devastation over here. Peace is at a 0 point. Some of you like to call it unified field, 0 point frequency. Let me just tune in. I'm going to wrap this up because my mom is waiting to serve dinner to me. Very lucky for me. Thank you is coming to my heart. Thank you for all of your prayers. They are working. Love is coming to mind because I feel the love you send me. Possibility. There's one person here that wants to believe. And the message is, your desire to want to believe is enough. Your desire to want to believe is enough. You're not stuck. But it's okay to feel stuck. And the moment you let that feeling of feeling stuck land, it can dissolve. And you can become aware that it was always open pasture. If you listen back to this, I hope you are shown your own single yellow leaf today. because God is always listening. And if you're willing to reconstruct the identity fabric of your mind into somebody to whom God always listens and hears every time, no exception, I can't wait to hear what happens. I love you too. You're welcome. My pleasure.